I'm back again with another review for the Keanu-thon, and today talking about reviewing the 1992 film Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I like this film, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Now, I will admit I haven't read the novel, so this is coming from more of a film review standpoint. For those who have read the novel, you can let me know. I hear it's pretty close to the novel. So for those who have read the novel, pardon my ignorance. um, and you can let me know down below what's the same, what's different. But, again, I do like the film. Now, when it comes to Keanu Reeves in the film, yeah, his performance, I'll talk about that. But the plots of the film, I'll just read off right here real quick. You have Count Dracula, who is played by Gary Oldman. A 15th century prince is condemned to live off the blood of the living for eternity. You have this young lawyer, played by Keanu Reeves, his character Jonathan Harker. He's sent to Dracula's castle to finalize the land deal. But when the Count sees a photo of Harker's fiancée Mina, who is played by Winona Ryder in the film, the spitting image of his dead wife, he imprisons him and sets off for London to track her down. And that's again, nutshell plot of the film. I know there's a little bit more to that, but just wanted to get that out of the way first. And again, I haven't read the novel, so... but, get into the film itself. First off, I'll say this, watching this again, it's a visual feast. Just the imagery and the visuals they were able to pull off. And this is back in 1992. And it's a very dark movie, it's a, gothic film, and the visual effects is well done. Again, certain images, shots of Transylvania, the castle, and, transformation scenes, and the way that, the way the film, like in regards to the editing of the film, the way it transitions to certain scenes is well done. And like the cinematography, because this is another well shot film. I was trying to see who did the cinematography. Let's see here. Full cast and crew. IMDb. Michael Ballhaus. Ballhaus. And unfortunately, he's passed away, but he was a cinematographer for Goodfellas and The Departed. And he's done more, like Gangs of New York. He did that. Air Force One, What About Bob? So he's worked on, a variety of films, Sleepers, Outbreak. And I thought, again, it's a great looking movie. It's well shot. And, performances here. Let's talk about performances. We have Gary Oldman as Dracula. Definitely creepy as Dracula. I would say one of my favorite Draculas. The makeup effects is really good. I thought it was well done. Practical makeup effects, no CGI, none of that crap. And, later on we have some of the transformation scenes, like especially in the end where, he transforms into, the vampire, like this creature. And again, practical makeup, suits and, looks, like practical visual effects with the way that creature looks in the end. And again, it's well done. I mean, it's like nowadays this would look bad. It would be, the latest, sci-fi made movie. But, they, again, the visual effects in the film looks great. And I just love the imagery and the gothic feel of the film, and how, they were able to, like, the editing the film transition of scenes. But again, Gary Oldman, getting back to the cast, I thought he was a great Dracula. Again, creepy, and again, I liked his look in the film. You also have Winona Ryder and this is coming off, Edward Scissorhands, she did it before this, and she was decent in the film. Like Winona Ryder, she's a good actress, and funny, I think later on, her and Keanu Reeves would do a film, Destination Wedding, so they did work together later on. Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing, I liked him here. Anthony Hopkins is a great actor. I mean, before this, he did Silence of the Lambs just a year before, and I liked this character in the film. Getting to the character of Jonathan Harker, who is played by Keanu Reeves, and yeah, this. I mean, when you have, first off, apparently, his character is supposed to be British, but you can't buy it. It's like when Keanu's doing this accent, it's like, yeah, easy, Keanu, easy. And I know, apparently, reading some of the trivia, there was some backlash when it came to the casting of Keanu. Even Keanu said himself that at that time when he did this film, he was exhausted, because he just came off Point Break and some other movies, a string of films. So he tried to give it his all, but it's just it's a bogus, no pun intended, performance. It's, again, he's trying to be British, and when he got lines in the film where his character towards the end is like, "It is the man himself. Look, he's grown young." And it's like, you can hear some of that Ted Logan in there. And his character's trying to, he's supposed to have an accent. Now, in regards to that, this is what it says on Wikipedia. The criticism of Keanu Reeves' performance. Empire criticized Keanu's casting, and as a weak part of the film, the weakest part of the film, Reeves was described as being out of his depth and frequently blasted off the screen by Gary Oldman, which I didn't know about. Total film back in 2010, countdown of the 29 worst movie miscastings, describing Keanu as dreary, milky nothing, a black hole of sex and drama. Someone's mentioned how it's one thing to cast Keanu as an esteemed British lawyer, but it's quite another to ask him to act alongside Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins. The two Oscar nominees ran circles around the poor guy, exposing his lack of range and shoddy accent and abysmal instincts for all to see. And even I think Keanu himself, I was reading this in the trivia. Let me see if I can find it. This is why I should have trivia ready on hand, but that's why we have IMDb. Okay, it says right here, Keanu Reeves said himself years later after the film that he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with his work in the film, stating that he had been exhausted from making several movies, but he didn't have anything left to give with this performance. He tried to, raise the energy, but he had nothing really to give. And I think even Francis Ford Coppola, I'm trying to figure out, he said something where I think even he doesn't understand why he casted Keanu Reeves in this film, because, I mean, at least Keanu's not singing, songs about Cincinnati like Babes in Toyland, but, which that's a piece of crap, that's worse. But, again, here, Keanu, it's like, he's trying to, with his accent, trying to be British, and once in a while you'll get a little bit of Ted Logan and a couple of lines, and I'm like, I can understand why people bag on this performance, and it's just that whole thing that whenever Keanu does a period movie, like this, or Dangerous Liaisons, it's like, His acting doesn't really come off genuine, and I don't. To me, is that because to me Keanu Reeves is a great actor. He's done better movies, but for people that say that he can't act at all, I disagree with that. It's just I don't think he's the best at period movies. Where this type of time period and trying to pull off a British accent and yeah, I mean it's one of his worst performances. Uh, Even though later on, doing Siberia, that's bad. But yeah, it is. It's one of his worst. Um, but let's see who else you have in the film. You have Cary Elwes from The Princess Bride. He has a bit part in the film. But I mean, overall, aside from Keanu, it's a good cast. I mean, again, Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins, Winona Ryder, and well directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and and of course Francis Ford Coppola, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather and Godfather Part Two, um, and I don't has he directed anything lately? Okay, he's directing a film called Megalopolis. Don't know anything about that. Um, of course, he directed Jack with Robin Williams. That one, But, The Outsiders, Peggy Sue Got Married. He directed that. Tucker, The Man in His Dream with Jeff Bridges. He directed that. So, very, a great director. And I thought he did a great job on this film. And again, just the way he handled the shots and the whole feel of the film and the vibe of the film. Now, I will say, for me, if I had to mention like, nitpicks with the film, a good chunk of the film, especially in the middle, doesn't really grab me as much. The stuff where, Gary Oldman is trying to get Winona Ryder, her character. And it's a 2-hour movie. It's just like, in the middle, it's like, doesn't, I'm not the biggest fan of the second act. Um, and, it got better as the film goes along. It's one of these films that I don't rewatch a lot. To me, it's still a good movie. I would say, to me, the best parts are Gary Oldman. He has, when he shows up in the film, to me, that's when, because it's a great performance, and he's a creepy Dracula, and, like, his stuff, I got into more, like, whenever he showed up on screen, or, and especially gearing up towards the third act of the film, get into the climax of the film, where they, take him out, Van Helsing, his character, but still, it's a well-directed film. And, great score. Who did the score here? Because I have to mention the score. Um, I'm going to botch this name, but Wojciech Kyler. And unfortunately, he's passed away, but he did the score for The Ninth Gate, The Truman Show, The Pianist, just to name a few films. I thought it was a great job. Great job on the score. Um, so I wanted to mention him. You also have Tom Waits in the film. I forgot to mention that. He plays this character, Renfield, who's a nut. And again, people who have read the novel, you can elaborate because of, again, that's my ignorance for not, I haven't read the novel, so I don't know who that character is, but he's in the film. Billy Campbell's in the film. So a couple of other cast members forgot to mention. Um, and, some good gore when it's like some good blood shots when the blood comes up. And as far as like, okay, box office, I always talk about that. Came out in November of '92, so it came out in the fall. Budget was 40 million, and it made 215.8 million. So a big hit. This film was a big hit. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars. Uh, let's see here. You know, I mean, and it even says right here on the cover, yeah. Winner of 3 Academy Awards. Best Costume Design, Best Makeup, and Best Sound Effects Editing. And, yeah, I mean, I could definitely applaud that department because, the art design of the film, the art direction, the costumes and the makeup, especially Gary Oldman's Dracula and some of the transformation scenes, it's well done. Again, all practical. And so I applaud that department. And again, a good score, which I mentioned. And yeah, the film appeared in Entertainment Weekly's 5 best vampire movies and Forbes' top 10 best vampire movies of all time. One of the sexiest horror films ever made. Uh, so, and let's see, production on the film. The director had agreed to meet um, with Ryder. We're talking about Winona Ryder, to meet her so they could to clear the air after her late withdrawal from The Godfather Part 3 caused production delays in the film, and it led her to believe that Coppola disliked her. But he ended up casting her in the film, and I know apparently as well there was some on-set drama between Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman, but I think that's cleared up. But I did read that in the trivia somewhere. And get into some of the trivia, which I did cover a couple of bits of trivia, but Gary Oldman hired a singing coach to help him lower his voice for an octave to help him give Dracula a more sinister quality. Let's see what else. Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola has openly criticized his own reasoning for casting Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker. According to him, he needed a young, hot star that would connect with the girls. Was someone else considered for Keanu's part? I thought I read that somewhere. Like maybe Johnny Depp or something. But I could be wrong. Let's see here. Just kind of going through a few trivia notes. And yeah, for the blood effects, they used red jelly. Steve Buscemi was the first choice to play Renfield, but turned it down. Okay, yeah. Francis Ford Coppola wanted Johnny Depp to play Jonathan Harker, but the studio wanted someone who was more of a heartthrob. Let's see here. Yeah, preview audiences are alleged to have found the film too gory, so 25 minutes of footage was removed to make it less gory. It's one of the very few Dracula movies in which, like in the novel, Dracula begins as a white-haired old man and becomes younger as he feeds on blood. His appearance as an old man is changed. However, in the novel, he is described as a tall old man, clean-shaven, save for a long white mustache, and clad in black from head to foot without a single speck of color about him anywhere. In this movie, he wears a long red robe, is of average height, and does not have a mustache. Amongst those who auditioned for the part of Dracula, Andy Garcia, but he had concerns about the number of sex scenes. Gabriel Byrne, Armand Assante, Antonio Banderas, Viggo Mortensen, But Banderas would go on to be an Interview with the Vampire, which he was in that. Um, let's see, yeah. Yeah, sometimes on the set, Gary Oldman and Francis Ford Coppola, sometimes they clashed with each other on the set over creative choices and such about Dracula. Um, Although this movie was never at risk of getting an NC-17 rating instead of an R from the MPAA, Coppola and the studio agreed to cut out some of the more ultra gory images from the final film. So, yeah, Drew Barrymore auditioned for the role of Mina, Winona Ryder's character. Charlie Sheen also auditioned for the role of Jonathan Harker. I think that would have been worse. Can you imagine Charlie Sheen trying to pull off that? Michael Keaton was considered to play Dracula. I want to see that now. That would have been entertaining, but yeah, I'm just kind of going on and on here. But again, at the end of the day, to me, it's still a good film, a good vampire, pure vampire flick. And I do like the black and white from the early 30s with Bela Lugosi. Um, really good cast. Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, Keanu Reeves. I don't know what. Again, I can't get over that line. That line he says in the film. Whoa, it's the man himself. Look, he's grown young. And it's like he's trying to pull off British and it just doesn't work. And the scene where, where he's laying down and the naked chicks and he's getting seduced or raped by vampires. What again, I haven't read the novel, so that was weird. But and yeah, I mean the second act doesn't grab me as much, but I will say Gary Oldman is a great Dracula and great imagery in the film. And it's a great looking movie. Creepy images and so on and so forth. But yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula, still a good flick. So that's my review of that. And next, I'll be reviewing the 90s action classic, Speed. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you later.